Hello, folks. Welcome to our Discus webinar for advanced searching in your Gale resources. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Stacy Niblo, your Gale trainer. And what we wanted to do with this session is just give you a look at some of the more advanced searching techniques available in the databases, as well as some of the more advanced tools you can take advantage of. So we're going to start with search techniques, and then follow up with our visual search tool, Topic Finder. It's not really an advanced, well, actually, I guess it is. It is an advanced tool, but it's also one that a lot of folks don't realize we have, so we wanted to cover that. And then we'll talk about Power Search, which is the ability to cross-search some of these resources together. And then Bookmarks, a way for you to integrate content from the resources into your library web pages and other tools. So let's go ahead and dive in. Not much PowerPoint for this one. We just want to get right to the resources. So of course you can always access the databases right through Discus's website, but of course whatever path you normally follow works for you. Feel free to follow along online in the databases if you'd like to today. Where I thought we'd start, because all of the databases offer an advanced search, I thought we'd use opposing viewpoints in context, because that is one of our most popular resources. And advanced search works the same way. All the search techniques that we're going to show work the same way in any of the databases. So anything I do here, you'll be able to do in any other Gale resource as well. So opposing viewpoints in context and our other in context resources all offer a nice simple search and a browse option. So when you've got a broad topic, it's pretty easy to find what you need, and a lot of times even a narrow topic. But sometimes you need to dig a little deeper, and that's where our advanced search really comes in handy. You can always access advanced search through the banner, the top here. And advanced search itself can be a very complex search tool, or it can be a very simple one. You can come to advanced search and just do a quick keyword search here the same way you can up in the search up in the banner. So it's what you do with advanced search that can make it much more complex. The nice thing about advanced search is you are the boss, and we find a lot of our users prefer it for that reason. You design the search you want to send into the database rather than letting, say, our basic search kind of handle a few things for you. So advanced search, just in and of itself, with all the choices you have, can be very complex. You choose the fields you want to search in, and all of our index fields are available here. So things like the title of the article, the publication title, person, the article may be about or written by. You can search by named work. All of these fields are searchable. And then, of course, you can combine them using and, or, and not. So you can combine different fields, much the same way you might in your OPAC combine a search on a title and an author. And if you need to, you can add more rows and keep refining your search further. And then, of course, you've also got a lot of limiting options you can apply. So things like isolating the peer-reviewed or full text articles, narrow your search by date. Document type is actually one of my favorite things to limit by. Can really get very narrow with the choices here. The content types of the resources. So, of course, in opposing viewpoints in context, we've got viewpoint essays, so we see that as an option, but also magazines, academic journals, you can isolate to those. Content and Lexile ranges, so if you need something specific for a particular audience, content level, basic will get you middle school, intermediate will get you high school, advanced will get you more scholarly or academic. And then, of course, we have the Lexile scores as well, so you can really get specific with a reading level. Any of these can be used, and they can be used in combination. So, very handy. I thought we'd start out with, though, just using a few of the tools that are up here at the top of the page within the advanced search rather than the limits. And in this database, of course, we're always, talking about social issues, hot button issues. Opposing viewpoints in context is where that really shines. And we have kind of a classic topic. I think the first thing that may come to mind when people think about debates, or actually maybe not so much anymore all the time, but, something like capital punishment is a classic, debate choice. But capital punishment isn't always how it's referred to. You might also hear it referred to as the death penalty. It kind of goes back and forth, a couple of very common terms for it. So All we need is that or operator. Whenever you're using a Gale database and you search on and or not, they are read as operators rather than search terms. So the way the search engine is going to read this is look for capital punishment or death penalty and bring back results with either or both in the same article. We can also let the database kind of handle proximity of these terms as well if we want to. The way I have the search right now, capital punishment, I'm not using quotes. It's going to search for capital and punishment to appear within 4 words of one another. And the order doesn't matter. It could be punishment capital, and we get that hit back. If I do want to force it, though, to search for a phrase, the simplest way to do that is to put it in quotes. So we can do the same for death penalty. And, you know, there's really, I could take this search and do it in the basic search. The benefit of advanced search is you choose the fields you want to search in. So to the far right here, we have the option to make this maybe a bit more narrow a search or broader. Keyword is a nice happy medium. It reads the first, well, actually, let me start from kind of the beginning. It reads the citation, so it reads the title of the article, who the author is. It reads the kind of citation other citation information. It's also going to read, though, the subject headings we've assigned to articles, as well as about the first paragraph of every article. It looks in the hot spots. Sometimes I think of that as a key field search rather than keyword, because it's looking at those key fields of every record. If we wanted to go more narrow, we could search by subject. That is going to look only at the subject headings. So those are assigned by indexers at Gale. We do use some machine-aided indexing, but for the most part, it's people assigning those subject headings. Every week, I get a list from our vocabulary team of new terms they've added or variant terms they've added. So there are people at work at creating those subject headings. We could go with entire document, and that is going to read every word out of every single article in the database. So it is the most thorough search you can do. It's great when you've got something a little more obscure. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and for capital punishment and death penalty, I really want articles that are about that topic. So I think subject is a good fit. Okay. Now, let's say I want to tie this with a certain type of capital punishment. So maybe we want to read more specifically about lethal injection. And capital punishment and death penalty in the subject, I think, works, but I'm not sure if lethal injection will work well as a subject heading. You know, it may, depending on how the article covers it, may not rank as a subject heading. So if I go down to the next field, we can, you can see I've got a little search assist there, very handy. Search on lethal injection here as well, and I'll use the same, I'll use quotes so we get an exact phrase. And in this case, I want to be sure my articles are mentioned, or mentioning that term. So make it entire document and tie those two things together. You really can't do this anywhere but advanced search. The search up in the top, at the basic search that we use in the banner, it's always searching the basic search fields. So I can't, you know, tell it to do something different. That's, again, a big advantage of advanced search. So if I go ahead and issue this search, now, one of the other things that's happening in the background that may not be obvious is that advanced search is not afraid to bring back 0 results. Basic search is. It will do a little work to your search to try and bring back hits. So, you know, completely unlikely, but say there were no hits that matched exactly the searches that I've given, we would get 0 hits back. Where if I tried something similar with the basic search, it would start dropping some of my requirements to still try and bring me back hits. So basic search tries to be a more assistive search, but advanced search is very particular and is going to give you back exactly what you've searched for or nothing at all. So of course, in this case, there are, considering, you know, again, the database, we're in plenty of articles to cover. And advanced search, you know, brings back a typical result screen. It isn't different because we've come from there rather than basic search. So our viewpoints are gathered together, our reference articles, magazines, and so on. And if we jump into an entry, go ahead and choose one. Again, this is going to have to fit our requirements. So if we look over on the right, you can see the subject headings for this article, and there's capital punishment, so it fit that requirement. Remember we said capital punishment or death penalty, and we picked that up. And then in the article, it has to somewhere have mentioned lethal injection. We can actually see that it lights up in red wherever we've got it. So you can verify where your term is pretty quickly. So advanced search lets you be not only more advanced in the way you send your search out, but more particular about the terms you're finding. So let's try another one. Now, in that example, I used quotes to do an exact phrase search. And you can do that anywhere. That's a fairly common, search tool. Most databases respond the same way to quotes. We also have ways to search for terms in proximity to one another outside of quotes. So if we want to loosen it up a little bit. Let's say, for example, we want to research recycling. And we're looking specifically for articles about plastic bags, or that speak to them. So take advantage of my little search assist there. This search string that I've got here in the second bar, there are a couple things going on. The W3 is our within proximity operator. W3 is telling the search engine, I want plastic and a bag to appear within 3 words of one another. They could be right next to one another. They could be plastic grocery store bag. It will pick that up. It's got to be within 3 words of one another. The W also is indicating that the order of these terms matter. Plastic has to come first when we use within. Other option would be to use near with an N. That says the terms don't have to be in this order. Bag could come before plastic and I would still get a hit. But I'm looking for plastic bags, so to me the order matters. I want the W instead. And so the proximity operator is very handy. Okay. Bag, I've also done a little something to. I've used another operator here. I'm not sure how well you can make that out, but that is an exclamation point right after the G in bag. That is one of our wildcard characters. Okay. These vary from different vendors, basically. It'd be nice if we could all get together on this like we have with the exact phrase searching. But the wildcard for Gale databases, or actually I should say the 3 wildcards we have for Gale databases are going to let you vary your term a little. What the exclamation point does is it replaces 0 or 1 characters. So I like to use it for something like this, like bag, because I'm going to get bag, I'm going to get bags, but I'm not going to get words like baggage, okay, because it replaces just 0 or 1 character, no more than that. So that's a pretty handy one. I'll go through some of the others, or the other 2 later, but exclamation point is one I find I use pretty often. Now, in this case, I need to choose my fields again. Document title doesn't work for plastic bag. If I want articles about recycling, I might want to choose subject. And actually, maybe I'll mimic what I did with the last one, search an entire document as well. And tie these things together. And there we go. So we can see for some right away, plastic bags look to be a subject as well. Or well, maybe not a subject, but play a very hefty role. We can see there in the title. But again, just pop into any article, and your search terms will appear in red as needed. Now, one of the other things you can do, let me go back to my results here, is after you've got your search in front of you, your results in front of you, you'll see that your search is shown up above. And notice next to each portion of your search, basically every line we filled out in advanced search, I have a little X next to that search strategy. So if I wanted to get rid of this, if I want to expand my search up now, maybe get rid of the limit on plastic bags and just see what we have for recycling, I can just X out, and it goes to our large result for recycling. So it's a nice, simple way to, expand your search if you need to. So the last thing I wanted to show you here before we jump into one of the other resources is actually putting some of those limits to work. And I think most of them are pretty straightforward. For example, something like, content type or publication date. Again, the one that I really love to put to use in advanced search is the document type search because they get so specific. We do have general ones like article, but you've also got things like biography, book review, case study, diary, personal account, just a large, list here of ways to really narrow down. So you have a lot of choices. One I think is really, there's one I like to use pretty often. Oops, went past it. And that's interview, because to me, that is a primary document. So whether it's coming from, say, a newspaper, I get it, I guess, via a secondary source. But, those are the words coming out of someone's mouth. So I love to look for interviews in this database. And we can tie that together again. And you'll see I use subject quite a bit when I'm using advanced search. I love to have the kind of the reliability of a subject heading as my for my articles, because I know it's really going to be about that topic. I'm not going to get something that just mentions climate change in passing. So subject is a big, I think, tool in advanced search. And what's nice about using document type is it's going to look at the whole database. So unlike if I were to limit to, say, content type and choose primary sources, in this case, I get hits from magazines, I get hits from audio, from news, and I thought I'd highlight the audio content here because I think this is content that often gets overlooked. NPR is a big provider for us into our databases, and we get links to the audio files plus broadcast transcripts. So if I don't want to listen, I tend to read an article more than I'd rather listen. I don't have to go out and listen to the podcast or audio file. I've got the whole interview right here. So that document type limiter can be really powerful. So just a few of our search tricks there. So the next thing I wanted to show you, and you may not use this very often, but I wanted to share it. It's a neat little trick as needed. So I'm going to show you how to cross-search our databases, or our available databases, I should say. You'll notice when you're in our databases, there's a library links button here in the banner. And when you click that, it opens up this sub-banner, and we can get to the Gale menu. Now, normally I don't use the Gale menu very much. It is good to bypass it. The less clicking, the better. But what it is going to allow me to do is cross-search Gale databases. And what we've got here on our menu is our database is divided by which are cross-searchable, those shown at the top with the checkbox, and those that aren't, down here at the bottom. Kids Info Bits, Nursing Resource Center, these are what we would call standalone. They don't cross-search. They have to be searched on their own. But the three above, Biography in Context, Opposing Viewpoints in Context, and Nursing and Allied Health Collection, which are all the journals that show up in Nursing Resource Center, are available for cross-searching. They share a common platform, so we can scoop them up into one search. So you'll notice each has a checkbox, so I could choose to just search a couple, or I'll go ahead and choose Select All, and we'll search them all together. And then you can click the Continue button, or you can actually issue a search right from the menu here, but I'll go ahead and click Continue. And what this goes into is our Power Search interface. You'll notice that's now the name in the banner, Power Search. It might look a little familiar, though, because this is our standard interface for our periodical products. So if you use Nursing and Allied Health Collection, or say your library might have access to, say, Student Edition or something like that, this is what it would look like. So this might be a little familiar. The nice thing is it has a lot in common with our other interfaces. So the banner is very much the same. We'll see the same tools for every article. And of course, the same search engine is running underneath it. So when you search for someone, it's going to look across the databases. So it's going to pull magazine articles, academic journals from all the databases. Those are what get highlighted here because this is, again, typically our magazine interface. But you'll notice the hits are coming from, biography and context. Of course, makes sense for Barack Obama. If we go over to the books results, that's where we'll see all the reference content that comes out of opposing viewpoints and context and biography and context. So we're getting lots of viewpoint essays where the former president is mentioned. We're getting biographies. So it's a nice way to kind of check as many sources as you can at once. The other benefit it gives you, though, let me go back to the home page, is we offer up our topic finder tool, which is a visual search. It's a really engaging way to search our content, and it does some neat things with your results. So let's go ahead and take advantage of it. We'll go ahead and search for climate change. And as it works, what it's doing, unlike the other searches, which are trying to bring back every article we have for your topic, Topic Finder wants to find the most relevant ones, and it brings back the top hits. And then what it does is analyze them. So this is kind of what I was alluding to. It is kind of this advanced search because there's a lot happening behind the scenes and visually, of course, a lot to look at. So it has read the first 100 words out of our top results and then created this grid, these tiles, around the key terms that are used most often. So this is doing a few things for me. It is, finding me articles about climate change, but it's also telling me, well, when we talk about climate change, we're also talking about, of course, the United States, which makes sense. We're talking about carbon dioxide. We're talking about greenhouse gas emissions, extreme weather, global warming, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey. And what it's done here is create groups of articles tied to these key terms. Now, it's also a heat map, so anything, red is used more often than things in orange or yellow or green. Also, the bigger tile pieces have more articles attached to them. So you get these visual cues around the terms as well. And for some of them, as you click, for example, United States, carbon dioxide, global warming, as you click, you can zoom in and see further narrower terms. So when we talk about global warming, we're talking about greenhouse gases, environmental policy. And as you click, over on the right, it's popping up and matching you up with search terms. Or excuse me, not search terms, matching you up with articles that go along with those key terms. Okay. You can hit the reset button to go back out. And of course, these databases are updated daily, so we've got Hurricane Irma coverage. And I'm sure maybe it hasn't been written about quite as much, so we're not seeing Maria, but I'm sure it's here. The other thing, though, that this result is kind of doing is informing me about my topic. These are the terms, yes, that we talk about in climate change, but it also could lead me down these paths, and I can, discover new connections within these topics. So it's a really interesting way to come at your results. It's also, again, very engaging. We find that students really like it because it is, out of database searching, I think fun. It's, maybe not typically a teenager's idea of fun, but it is kind of a fun way to look at your results and work with them. So it's interactive, it's fast. That's one of the things I like about it too. And again, it's working with the top results. So I'm not working with 8,000 articles, it's just bringing back, maybe a couple hundred so I can work with them. So very handy, and something you do need to come to Power Search to find. This isn't available in the databases when they're in standalone mode. So we wouldn't have been able to do this in opposing viewpoints and context. We have to come here to the cross search tool to find it. Down the road, it is getting a response. You might find it in other databases, but for right now, you want to come to the cross search tool and you'll find Power Search. So handy little tool. Now, let me go ahead and I'm just going to grab an article here and jump in. And we have an article here. And again, I wanted to share with you some ways you can share content with your users. And I've created website to show you that. Let me take us there. So this is just a demo site I created using Yola. I don't have well, I shouldn't say very, I don't have any HTML skills or web authoring skills, so I have used a tool that basically makes things look nice for me. So I've created this fake library that I've gone ahead and named after myself. And all through it are links to content from our databases. So I created a special one for climate change. And what I did was link to specific articles, specific pages within our databases. And the way I did that is by using our bookmark tool. So let me show you what it does. Basically, click here to check out these opinions on various topics. So when I click, it takes me into opposing viewpoints and brings me to these viewpoint essays. Now, how did I get it to do that? Let me show you. Whenever you're in a database, you're going to see a bookmark tool at the top of the page. It's here when we're in opposing viewpoints in context. It's here when I'm in Power Search. All I need to do is look for it. And whenever it's there and it's enabled, meaning I can click on it. If it weren't available, it would be grayed out and I wouldn't be able to click. But if I can click on it, what it's going to give me is a persistent URL or PURL that I can then post wherever I like, okay, wherever I would normally put a URL. So I've got it here. Well, let me go back so we can see it. I've got it here on this website I created, but I could just as easily have copy and pasted into my library's Facebook page and made a post about this article or these articles or this database, whatever it may be. Okay, it's up to you as the user where you want to put it, or as the library where you want to put these links. And you can do it for anything. I've got it here for a single article. So I would just click the bookmark, grab that URL. But let's say instead I want to take people to lots of results on climate change. I can just do a search. And again, there's the bookmark. I just click and it gives me the URL, the persistent URL. Okay? I can use it in the individual databases too. So biography and context. Say maybe Thanksgiving's approaching. We have the other kind of end of the year holidays coming. Maybe I'm creating some sort of theme around it. So actually, let's just do a quick search here on Thanksgiving. You can find some. And could look through and maybe find some folks who have written extensively about the history of Thanksgiving or something. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that that's what our first person has done. We'd have to have time to go through it, but yeah, it looks like that is the case, looking at the list of writings for this author. So let's say I want to share, this author's biography. Again, just use the bookmark tool. There we go. Copy and paste it. Okay. Opposing viewpoints in context. Nowadays we've got lots of opinions out there. Okay. People are concerned about finding valid information on the web and what sites can you trust. Well, with opposing viewpoints in context, you've got vetted information. You've got a publisher backing up everything you find here. So for things that are very hot topic, but also, controversial and maybe don't feel comfortable sending folks out on the web to research, just drop them into a portal, for example, healthcare, so they can read up, find viewpoints from people who know what they're talking about, read reference articles to get the facts, stay up to date with current news, magazines, academic journals. This whole portal is dedicated to health insurance. I can link my users right into it with the bookmark URL. So that URL always takes you back to the same place. So you have reliability. Okay? You don't want to use the address that is in the URL that's here in the address bar of your browser. Okay, putting a bunch of X's through it to reiterate my point. Those will not work consistently. That URL that's up in the address bar of the browser holds your session information. So it's keeping track of your search history, it's keeping track of highlights and notes, it's keeping track of say your preferences if you use the listen button, all these little things. we clear those out at the end of your session to protect user privacy, so that URL isn't going to work anymore after you're done in the database. So you always want to make use of the bookmark URL, because that's the one that is going to be persistent. Okay? And again, just copy and paste it to wherever you like it. It's going to work in a LibGuide. It's going to work in a tool like Schoology. It's going to work in Blackboard. It's, again, going to work in Facebook, Twitter, all the different social media sites. It's going to work on a regular old web page, anywhere you'd normally put a URL. And generally, when someone clicks it, as you saw with me, it's going to land right in the resource. It doesn't prompt for authentication. Here and there it might. It's not perfect. You might get prompted for authentication now and then, but most of the time you just land wherever you wanted to put your users. So you don't even have to put in a library card number, password, whatever you may use for authentication. It's just going to drop you right into the database. So it's a great way to lead users to the tools you want them to use. So I think that is everything I wanted to show you. So let's pop back to the PowerPoint for a minute so I can show you where to go when you've got questions after today. Of course, feel free to send them in now. But when you have questions and you need answers, of course, you've got great help there at Discus, but you can feel free to reach out to us at Gale as well. Our support site has lots of good information, but if you want to talk to a person, you can feel free to reach out to me or your customer success manager. They help you be successful with the resources. They can answer questions around bookmarks or the advanced searching techniques, help you with promoting the resources and driving people to them. So feel free to reach out to us as you need to. So I think that's everything. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. We hope the session was helpful and you got something out of it. Feel free to send in any questions again as they may come up after today. We're happy to hear from you. So thanks everybody. Have a great day.